Hey everyone, welcome. This is Leonard with the Artist Collective, and I am here today just to help share some ideas and some tips on YouTube and how you can use some of your actual live streaming content and some of your other content that you're sharing and how you can help reach more fans. And I'm excited today to have a guest on the show. But first, if you are tuning in live, please give me a hashtag live and let me know where you're tuning in from. We'd love to connect. If you're watching this on replay, give me a hashtag replay and let me know where you're tuning in from. We like to see who's watching live and who gets this chance to watch these afterwards. But today I'm really excited because there's obviously been a lot of discussion, a lot of talk recently about Facebook and Instagram and what we can live stream and what we can't, and the kind of things that we can share in our videos and things like that. But we want to take a second today just to step back and then also talk about the fact that Facebook and Instagram aren't necessarily the only players in the game. In fact, they might not be the best player in the game depending on the kind of content you share and depending on the amount of content that you share. And I've had the pleasure of meeting our guest in person. I actually followed him for probably 10 years, bought his books, took his courses, and randomly a few years ago we were passing each other in the hallway at the CD Baby DIY Musician Conference, and I'm like, "Hey, Bob Baker." He's like, "Hey, who are you?" So it was kind of a cool a cool event to just for me to be able to actually like meet someone who helped me get my band off of the ground many years ago. And today we're going to be talking to Bob about how he actually has grown his YouTube channel and some tips that he might be able to share with you. And I'm really excited to bring him on. So, what is up, Evan? If you guys are again watching live, let me know where you're tuning in from. But help me welcome to the stage, coming to you live from. Are you in St. Louis? He's in St. Louis. Um, help me welcome Mr. Bob Baker. Bob, how are you doing today,
I'm
man?
doing great. Thank you, Leonard. That was an awesome introduction. And yeah, brought back fond memories of meeting you and your wife. And I guess it was Nashville, I'm pretty sure, was the
Yes,
CD Baby conference, which they were going to have it again in Austin this year. And obviously
I
that didn't
know.
take place. So we're having to do everything virtually. But yeah, great to connect
Yeah.
with you again. I'm really excited to talk about all the stuff we're going to be covering here.
Yes, and this actual session, everyone, will be it's a part of our music industry chat podcast. So Vinny is going to be our person that is going to edit this and chop it up, and it'll be on part of our music industry chat podcast. But also, one of the things that I'm doing within our artist collective membership is we're doing an entire series, entire month of live stream strategies for musicians. So, one of the things that we'll touch on today, in addition to our YouTube growth, is just maybe some live stream tips that Bob has used in the past and how they may or may not relate to YouTube. So, we'll talk about that. But before we do that, Bob, you have been in the game. As I just mentioned, I connected with your content, several years before we actually met. But if you could just share a little bit about your music marketing journey, and I think you were a journalist writing for a paper when this whole thing first started off. But just give us a real quick
Sure.
description of just kind of how you got into the music marketing world.
You bet. Yeah, and if I remember right, soon after we met in Nashville, I think I looked you up on, we looked each other up or something on Facebook, and I discovered we had already been friends for like 10 years
Yeah.
or something, or emails from you. I think that went back that long. So that was really cool. So yeah, I'm in
Yeah.
St. Louis, Missouri, born and raised here. Ever since I was a kid, I had an interest in. There were two passions of mine that were kind of early on. With music, I played the guitar, have been since like middle school, high school, and also was interested in the written word. Um,
Mm-hmm.
just even outside of school, I would write stories and different things. And then in the 80s, like the late 80s, I combined these passions for the first time in an entrepreneurial way. And in fact, I didn't write for another paper. I started my own. It's called Spotlight Magazine. And it covered the local music scene in St. Louis. I just saw it as an opportunity. There was a void in the market. A lot of musicians complained about the traditional, the existing news media not covering local music. So I decided to create something that would do that, and eked out. And so I had really no previous experience doing that. It just seemed like a
Yeah.
good idea, and so I just jumped into it and ended up doing that for 10 years, from
Wow.
87 to 97. And it was cool. It was during that period I got to interview a lot of artists at different levels, and so I've always found myself picking their brains. And then I started a column in my own paper with tips, with like success tips for musicians.
Nice.
They were not only for my readers, but it was also for my own benefit. I applied it to my own bands and all that. And so that's how I sort of became my initial, dipping my toe into being an educator, I guess, or an
Sure.
inspirer. Then my first book was published in the early, like 93. And over the years, I published like 15 physical books and then a couple other dozen ebooks,
Yeah.
audiobooks, online courses. I was really early on in the second book that I published was one that I self-published called the Guerrilla Music Marketing Handbook, and that came out in a crude version in a 3-ring binder in like 1996. Um,
3-ring binders were awesome.
they yes, they had
Come on,
that
people.
heft factor, right?
Right.
So I just took a collection of the
Yeah.
columns that I'd written, I beefed them up, and 3-hole punched them and put them in a binder and started offering it that way. And as print-on-demand technology improved, it became a paperback book. And really, it was sort of I didn't realize it at the time. I was kind of a pioneer in independent publishing and using the internet to spread my message. But
Yeah.
that's how people look at it now. And that book became sort of like a pretty highly acclaimed title. It's still in publication. I've updated it every few years or so, and it kind of put me on the map. And then just created other resources for musicians. I do other things in the arts too. We may talk about my
That's true.
improv. I do improv. I paint a little bit. That's my painting of Elvis on the back wall
Nice.
there. Obviously a writer, a musician. And so I started creating resources for creative people in general with an inspirational message, kind of encouraging them to share their gifts. And and then
Yeah.
we can talk about this more
Yeah.
recent development with YouTube. If you want to get into that, that's kind of like the little snapshot there.
Yeah, and I think it was the Guerrilla Music Marketing Handbook is what I purchased, and I think I downloaded it, and then I got the physical book. But yeah, it was basically, I was just starting off, as a band, and I was like, I need, I'm a great, give me a template of something to follow, and I can follow it. I can think up new stuff, I can put stuff in my own ways, but I just need something to get me started. Just someone, they don't have to know it all, but just if they know a
Yeah.
couple things more than I do, I'm good. I can I can follow.
And it was not
Um,
it was not like a traditional marketing book. It wasn't academic at all. It was just like basically a musician speaking to other musicians about what I've learned. And
yeah,
um it's in getting yeah, so and using a lot of examples of how people have used creativity instead of cash to spread a
hmm
buzz. And it's a lot of people really resonated with it. I'm very blessed that you and others benefited
yeah.
from it over the years. Yeah.
And so obviously then you were let's talk YouTube for a second. So you were posting um, videos, and you've been posting content on YouTube. And let's just put this in perspective real quick. So obviously the title of this was how Bob grew his YouTube channel to 1 million views per month.
Per month.
Not
Yeah.
not 1 million views, which obviously is something, you know, like that's the bucket list for me, or that that's a great goal. But 1 million views per month, and currently I just looked up, you've got about 155,000 subscribers
Yeah,
on
it's
your
great.
YouTube channel. But before we get into those crazy, amazing numbers and how you got there, tell me a little bit about and share with us a little bit about how long you've been posting on YouTube, and then kind of what the spark was where your
Yeah.
growth kind of shifted, because you haven't always had a million views, and your first few videos probably weren't the crazy stellar numbers that you're looking at now.
No,
So
not
yeah.
at all. So yeah, so I've always we've already established I've been at this a long time, and so I
Hmm.
started using email in like '95 or something, in mid '90s to spread my message, and then I was selling ebook or PDF downloads of my ebooks in the early 2000s, way before there was an e ebooks or Kindle and all that. So I've kind of always been experimenting on the edge of change, or what I thought was coming around
Hmm.
the corner. So I've pretty much been blogging and podcasting and things since the mid 2000s. So I got on YouTube in 2006. My first video was posted in May of 2006. That was the second year it was even in existence.
Yeah.
Um, and posted, and over the first decade that I was on it, so what was that, 14 years ago?
Hmm.
Um, and posted hundreds and hundreds of videos, but it was all over the map representing all the things that I was into. I had videos about my books, about my comedy, which we'll probably talk about, my own original music, art, just and traveling. So a whole wide range of stuff. And I managed to get to about, I think I had like 4,000 people, some subscribers, I should say, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. But I was going through this experimental phase where maybe I was just looking for something new, a new aspect of, I don't know, I just was feeling experimental with YouTube in particular and becoming more fascinated with it. And combine that with a personal journey that I've always been a big student of personal development and personal growth, lifelong, ever since I was in high school. And so I've used like visualization and goal setting and positive self-talk. There's things that have been part of my personal life that have helped me achieve my goals, over
Hmm.
the years. Because I remember doing affirmations about when I was aspiring to make a living as an author, and I would just say these things to myself to kind of stay focused and motivated, and those things end up happening, in some form or another. So I was seeking out guided meditations and affirmation recordings on YouTube, and not finding things I was really happy with. So something like the person's voice was just not right for me, or the background music was too busy, too loud, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm a musician. I've got some gear here, some basic stuff, and I thought to myself, I think I can create things that I'm looking for and I can't find. And so I started. It was just a playful. There's no big business plan, but I
Yeah.
ended up just saying, let me just put some stuff up on YouTube. I already got a variety of things anyway,
Hmm.
and then and they started, nothing like shot out viral right off the bat, but they started getting more views than my average videos. um, and it fascinated me. And so I kind of like the way I live my life is I have a lot of interests. Um, so I tend to go where the energy is, because sometimes
Sure.
you have an interest, but people aren't resonating with it. And then but people were with this. So I kind of doubled down on it, started soaking up everything I could about best practices with YouTube, experimenting with the titles and the things that we'll talk about here. But slowly but surely, the channel just grew and grew to where I remember when I went from 4,000, I would hit like 20,000 subscribers. 6 months later, it doubled to 40. 6 months
Mm.
later, it was 80. The end of last year, I hit the coveted 100,000. Now you mentioned I'm close to 155,000
Yeah.
subscribers. And then, yeah, the milestone of 1 million views I hit in July and August. And this is crazy. I mean, and that's mind-boggling to me. They're actually like there's like 330,000 unique people that view my videos every month.
Wow.
Because of those 1 million+ views, the average viewer watches 3 videos. So
Wow.
that's actually 330 or whatever thousand different people, and that's pretty impactful.
Yeah.
And the comments that I get from people saying that how it's touched them or changed their lives or whatever is just like super meaningful to me. And I monetize them, and it's what the main way that I earn a living, support my family. These
Meaningful in a few different ways. That's
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
yeah. But what better way to support yourself than to do something that's
Seriously.
seriously helping people around the world? It's a global audience, so that's
That's
kind of my
awesome.
story. And I never saw this coming, but I welcome it because it totally resonates with who I am and how I like to serve people. Um,
So, okay. So, about, I think you said over the first 10 years or so, you gained about 4,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
And you were basically kind of going with the flow, like you said. And you said, if that's for me, I'm totally not here. Just like,
Sorry about that.
but you mentioned that, it was, how long ago was it that you started to niche down to
It was
your affirmation?
around 4 years ago.
About 4 years ago? Okay.
Yeah.
And so, and by the way, for those of you tuning in, first of all, thank you. But if you have any questions for Bob, please drop them in the comments. I know we're actually live on a public page, and then we're also live in our Artist Collective membership group. So if you are in the membership group, just feel free to comment there. I know that Evan has started a watch party there, so if you can comment there, let me know what questions you have for Bob, and we will get them over to him. But so then, about 4 years ago, you're like, you know what? I want to actually create what I'm looking for,
Yeah.
and basically, you were able to see that there was probably still, 4 years ago, there's probably a lot of affirmation and instrumental content out there, but it just wasn't quite what you were looking
Yeah.
for. And so you're like, there's probably something, maybe there's other people out there looking for the same thing I am.
Yeah, that's how a lot of entrepreneurial ideas start. If somebody can't find what they're looking for, and they say, "Well, I'll create it myself," and then you of course have to see if there's a market for it. I mean, I've had a lot of ideas over the years that I thought were really cool, but people just didn't seem to care. We're pretty apathetic, But I've had enough things hit like this to make it worthwhile. So yeah, totally, that's how that started.
Cool. And so with that then, and I listened to your podcast. By the way, do you have just one podcast, or you have a couple?
I have
Yeah.
3.
3, okay.
Yeah, the music podcast, the creative entrepreneur, and then about a year ago I started the affirmation meditation podcast.
Nice.
Which and
Yeah. You're probably doing pretty well.
On the first 2 though, it is it's crazy how this topic just outperforms anything I've done previously with my books or anything. But on both the music marketing podcast and creative entrepreneur, I posted a 2-part series with a little more in depth on this YouTube growth story.
Gotcha. Awesome. Yeah. And so, having listened to that, so I want to ask you the question then. So, why is YouTube different? So we've talked about, everyone is focused on Facebook, and just let me just say this out loud. Facebook is not coming for your live streams. If you are performing, playing an instrument, if you're performing and doing these things live, you're fine. Facebook has, basically they said that back in May that, look, the Music Modernization Act, we have to help, meet the needs of our publishers and all of that, but we also want to have artists be able to express themselves. So just let me say this out loud. If you're playing your instrument, if you're singing along to it, you're fine. It's when you get into the pre-recorded music of others, even pre-recorded instrumental tracks that you purchase, anything that is pre-recorded that you're performing to DJs. We've got some DJs in our ecosystem. Those are the types of content that they're going to be clamping down on. So let me just say that. But with that being said, Facebook is not the only game in town, and Bob made some great points in this podcast I listened to. But Bob, just kind of help explain why is YouTube different, and how can artists take advantage of that?
It's very different than all the other social platforms that were, and I apologize. Let me know if you hear a dog barking in the background.
I heard a little puppy, but it's all good.
A foster that we're going to adopt. We've had about 3 months, but somebody must be at the door or something. But anyway, so it's very different than Facebook and all the others. And so there's a couple of key factors, and really that's, I think, in the podcast or whenever I've only done a couple of workshops on YouTube. Maybe I'll do more. We'll see. But these are if you get nothing else, these are the points that I think you really need to understand about it to be able to use it effectively. So one, YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. It's owned by Google, which is the #1 search engine in the world. So people generally go to YouTube to look for things that they're interested in finding. That could be entertainment, but it could be something as simple as how to fix your lawnmower, how to make bean salad, the best washing machine to buy. People often go there looking for something specific, which is not the way that you use Facebook. You're not going to go type into best, but you might on Facebook. You're more likely to ask your friends for recommendations. It's more of a social thing, or share. You're going to share things about your life on Facebook, and then things like Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. They are so. Things get lost in that news feed so quickly, but nobody goes to those places to seek out information. So that's #1. It's really important, and we're going to come back to that. Yeah, I mean that's like the crux of the whole being effective. And then the other thing that if you don't mind is the shelf life. As I mentioned on Twitter, especially, but many of these sites, it has a shelf life of anywhere from minutes to hours. Even like if I post something on Facebook that's popular and people are commenting on it, it might be active for like 24 hours, maybe 48 hours tops, and then it's gone, and people are on to the next thing. Whereas on YouTube, things potentially have a much longer shelf life. For instance, I can go, YouTube gives you a dashboard, or it's called Studio, where you can go and look at all the analytics. They give you so much information. They really provide a lot of resources for creators because they want you to succeed as long as you play by the rules. And so I can go in and look at the most popular or the most views, the videos that have had the most views in the past week, the past month, or any, set a number of time. And if I look at the top 10, 20 videos, many of them I put out a year ago or 2 years ago, or even longer, 6 months ago. So that's totally different than. So I think long term, you can still do some topical things or some current promotions, and maybe unlist them if they're just no longer relevant. But I always think long term, and I love, because it frustrates me to do TikTok videos or tweets knowing that it's going to be gone, so that's what I really love about YouTube, is that long term aspect of it.
That's a really good point. And the other piece of that you mentioned was talking about, like, once you find a winner, is to make more of that. And a winner can be relative. Like, just hearing that, and it's like you kind of instinctually know, like, oh, people like that, I should make more of that. But then to know that, like, that's not just random happenstance. Like, people are telling you what they like. And just on my Indie Band Coach YouTube page, I have a couple of winners that I've been ignoring. Like, people have really reacted to my StreamYard tutorial that I've done. Like, I've most of my videos there, and it's just been a few years, but like most of my videos are 50 to 150 views, and they've been on there for a year, 2 years. I did one like 4 months ago that's got close to 2,000.
Cool.
So it's a little bit, again, it's not gonna break anybody's bank or anything like that, but it's obviously, it's like, oh, this is something I should probably do again.
And it's on StreamYard, how to use it.
Yeah, which we are using now, everyone, by the way. You can bring on guests, you can do different stuff.
So
go watch my video.
you could do other aspects, like take a specific aspect of StreamYard and go deeper into it. You could do some videos or test out the videos, like just on streaming in general. Do something on Facebook specifically, Instagram specifically. So that's definitely. So that is definitely what do you call it? Yeah. Thing that successful YouTubers do is you pay attention to what's working and do more of that. Also, I want to mention, even though I kind of veered into this affirmations, guided meditations thing, I know a lot of musicians are watching, and they might go, well, how does this apply to me? But the strategies that I use can be applied to whatever, no matter what your topic is. So in my case, when I first started experimenting with this, Yeah, there were other existing YouTube channels out there that did guided meditations. They do like sleep music, yoga music. So I kind of experimented with all of it. I did some music only tracks that I created myself in GarageBand. I did some guided meditations to relax. I did stuff for creativity because that was kind of in line. But then I just kept on putting stuff out there and experimenting. And I think it's really helpful to have a sense of play about this. I never knew it was going to work. I just put out a lot of stuff. So volume,
Yeah.
playfulness, experimentation is the key to
Sure.
this. But what I noticed early on was that my morning affirmation stuff started getting more traction. And then topics like abundance, gratitude, success, these were topics that would seem to be getting more views. So now I'm kind of like the morning affirmation king of YouTube. And not so much with guided meditations or sleep music or any of that stuff. That didn't really
Sure.
take off. So I paid attention to what was resonating, did more of that type of stuff. And then
Nice.
the trick is how can you continue to hit these things from different angles. So I had to mix things up and get creative. Sometimes they're I am affirmations where you say I am abundant and you give them space to repeat it back to themselves. Or sometimes I'll do you are affirmations where I just set them to sit there and listen to it as if, a parent or a mentor or something was speaking to them. You are abundant. You are, successful. So you have to hit it from different angles and niche it down. But I never know to this day what. Sometimes I have a hunch and it turns out, but sometimes I go, oh, this is going to be big, and it's kind of like okay. And other things I throw it up there, and it's like, yeah. I did a video about a month ago with a pretty bold title called "The 10 Most Powerful Affirmations of All Time."
Wow.
I took like 10 of my favorites. And that thing has it has close to 250,000 views like in a month, which is really crazy for a newer video. And I thought it might do well, but I had no idea it would do that well. So anyway.
Yeah. That's great. And, just for the musicians and artists that are watching, as Bob alluded to, like, so maybe using this framework and thinking about how you can use YouTube. If you are someone who does your own original music, if you are someone who does covers or someone who does a combination of them, there's still lots of room in there to play with in terms of how those can apply to what people might be looking for, because it's not like obviously the how-to kind of stuff are things that people search for a lot. And obviously, as we mentioned, YouTube number 2 search engine, Google number 1 search engine, you can find what they're looking for. That's the difference between YouTube and all of the other social media channels, is because you will be able to have a link. You will be able to have, basically a little crystal ball of what volumes of people are looking for, in the fact that when you go to start to type in something, it gives you those what's called predictive.
I call it auto suggest.
Yes, auto suggest, predictive comments. But yeah, it's basically telling you, hey, of the stuff that you just typed in, we're going to fill out 10 options of the most common things that people are searching for. So you could start to search for either your genre of music or an artist that you cover, or types of artists that you cover. Getting into the how-to realm of stuff, if you're a musician and you play, or if you are, even a band manager or whatever kind of passion, like, don't take for granted your art, because there are plenty of people that would love to know how you do what you do. Doesn't matter how big or how simple or how natural it comes to you. There are going to be people out there that don't know how to do that, that want to know how to play a guitar, play a keyboard. So even if you don't feel qualified to, oh, I'm not a music teacher, you know what? There's somebody out there that would love to learn from you, and start to think about, just the different aspects of the stuff that you do. Try to step outside of yourself, because again, creatives are creative and stuff comes naturally for some of us, and we were just born with gifts and all of these things that we just, unfortunately sometimes take for granted, and we just go on and do stuff. Break those things down, and even the decisions that you make to, turn those into different passions or turn those into different things. Like, even those decisions that you make are things that people would love to know. Like, how did you decide to do that? Or how do you go from this to that? Like, those transitions, all of those things are fair game for stuff that people search for. Um,
Yeah. So for musicians, so basically I'll just piggyback on what you're saying. You have to think beyond just putting your original songs up there and putting the name of the original song and the name of the artist. That's fine, but until you have a sizable fan base that's clamoring for your next song, you might have limited success. So you have to be a little bit more creative. And again, coming back to the search engine thing, emphasis, you have to create videos on topics and using phrases that people are actively searching for. And at first, you don't want to take the big general topics like blues music or something, but if you play a specific type of Delta blues music with a certain obscure instrument or something. So at first, you're trying to hit the niches of very specific things that people might be searching for. But you so yeah, like you're saying, the songwriting process, how I write a song, how I set up my home studio. These are all things that people are actively searching for, not necessarily your band name or your names of your original songs early on. That may get to that point. That's ideally, because actually it's really funny to me that early on, when I would check what search terms people were finding, how they were discovering my videos, it was things like morning affirmations, I am affirmations, gratitude affirmations. But more and more people are actually searching for my name, because I'm a known entity with affirmations. So if you type in Bob Baker into the YouTube search, it says affirmations. It's the first auto suggestion.
Nice.
So people are actually searching for my name now. So yeah, you want to get to that point, but at first they have to discover you through some other means. And so figure out what those topics that you can address that will bring people to you, make them aware of your whatever it is that you do in the music world, and then take it from there.
It's kind of like that whole thing of, like, if you're meeting someone at a party, like, you find out what you have in common. You start talking and you find out what you have in common. So, you can use your search engine as a way to be like, hey, here's stuff, topics, niches that I'm interested in or whatever. And then it's like, guess what? There's other people out there that are also interested in that. So it's like, now you can start to gear your content towards stuff that you have in common. It's like, oh, cool. I have this in common with this artist. And, oh, he does morning affirmations, which, speaking of which, one of our viewers, Russ Baum, he is an awesome artist out of Indianapolis, and he has been doing some really cool stuff in terms of just, actually, it's morning affirmation, very similar types of content, but he's taken a different kind of approach to it. When the pandemic hit, and I got a chance to interview Russ, so I kind of know a little bit about his story, but he basically found himself kind of, a little lost in the mornings, because he was like, this is the time that I would usually be setting up my booking and emails and doing all of these stuff involved around shows and touring and all of that stuff, but he's like, I don't have anything, I'm not doing that now. So he started going live in the mornings. And long story short, he's basically been doing like these, morning coffee acoustic shows in his basement, and it's just him and his guitar, but he's really good at like interacting with the audience and stuff. So he's been doing that like 5 days a week, and there's no tip jars or anything like that. But then at the end of the month, he has a paid concert that's in the evening, and instead of drinking coffee, he's drinking whiskey, and they're hanging out. It's a little bit different vibe, and he's got some stuff, but he's been able to do really well with that dynamic. Cool. So that's just one of the different, I guess, frameworks that I've seen, that if you're prolific at creating content, that could be something that you do. Now, not everyone is going to be able to do 5 days a week and then have a concert. That's a lot, that's a lot to ask, but he does have a question.
He's doing
But go ahead.
doing that on Facebook or YouTube?
Yes, sorry. He's doing that on Facebook.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, he's doing it on Facebook, and now he's starting to look at YouTube. In fact, he just sent a message. We were just messaging yesterday about it. I'm like, oh man, I need to tag you. You need to check this out. But he does have a question.
Yes.
Which I did also. It's a really good question here, Russ. I did want to point this out as well. But he's like, hey Bob, just wondering if you are doing live streams or uploading pre-recorded videos. If it's live stream, I'm wondering if they still monetize and send royalties, that kind of thing.
So I think I have over 250, somewhere between 250 and 300, I think, of these affirmation, meditation type things that I've in total over the last few years. Yeah, I'm doing 2 a week, so you'd think I'd have more than that. But yeah, really. But yeah, well, I guess that adds up. And so by far, the vast majority of them are pre-recorded that I upload. I have done some live streams, and because of the growing numbers of my subscribers, I can go live on YouTube without any notice, and pretty soon have like dozens of people interacting and commenting and all that. The answer is yes, you can monetize your live videos, because you can after the live stream you tell it to post it, and people, that's another nice thing, they can watch the replay. I don't think those videos rarely come up in my top monetized videos as far as income, but I generate a little bit. I don't know how they treat live streams differently from a monetization standpoint, but yes, you can monetize them and earn the royalties. I'm assuming, and just for those of you who know, if you have whether you just have a small YouTube channel or you're thinking of starting one, to monetize your videos, you have to be a YouTube partner. You have to meet a minimum threshold or requirements is 1,000 subscribers, which is kind of tough for a brand new channel, but you can get there.
Yeah.
And then you have to have 4,000 hours of watch time over the past year. So when you hit both of those things, you can then apply to become a YouTube partner. I think they have someone actually manually, look at your channels to make sure you're not doing anything underhanded. And once you're approved, then you can choose what videos to monetize, and then any ad revenue that they make, they split. Somewhere I read that they actually give 55% of it to the creator. I thought it was a split, but it's basically half or so of the ad revenue, which ends up being, I don't know, it's just like streaming revenue is pretty small, but still, yeah, that's what you need to do.
Cool. And Ellen Allard says hello.
Oh, hi, Ellen.
Hi, Ellen.
Yeah.
And yeah, one good point too that you made, Bob, as you were talking about that. You said that you do 2 videos a week. How long have you been doing that? And then like, how did you know, or how did you come to that content? Was it based on, again, what your audience was telling you, or was it based on just your time and editing and ability?
Yeah, it's a combination of all those things. I mean, I was actually posting more. For a while there, I was posting when I was really obsessed with learning this. I was posting even more often, but that does kind of, to allow time to, at some point, this seemed like the right fit. I also knew from my analytics that people like half of my viewers are in the US, and because morning affirmations are so popular, mornings were the most viewed time. So I post every Monday and Thursday morning, just twice a week. I experimented with it. I did 3 times a week. I would do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but I've settled into this for a good year and a half now. And that seems to work. Sure, I could post more often, but I like to give each video at least 3 days to breathe and find its audience before a new one pops up. That'd be my recommendation. If someone really wants to, as I mentioned in the podcast that you referenced earlier, you don't have to use YouTube with a big business strategy. You don't have to want to monetize it. Use it for fun. You use it as a place to post your videos and things, and not worry about all this tactical stuff, which will save you a lot of headache.
A lot of stress. Yeah.
So don't worry about the metrics and go, oh, I only have 50 subscribers. It doesn't matter if you're just using it for fun. If you really want to do something with it, though, I recommend. Here's the thing. This is tough. I recommend that you commit to posting 1 to 2 videos a week for like a year. Could you actually commit to doing that and not seeing an immediate response? Like, could you stick with it? Because actually, a friend of mine had this idea to do like Christian daily affirmations. It was a Christian-based kind of thing. And I did just a little keyword research and found out this was a pretty popular topic. And I said, man, if you stuck with this, I think you could do something with it. And man, it was a slow start. For months he was doing a couple videos and just like a trickle of views and subscribers. But then he sent me an email not long ago saying, man, I hit 1,000 subscribers, which it's so
Yeah.
he's got one that has 1,000, 4, 5, 8,000 views. And so he stuck with it, and it paid, and it's starting to pay off, I guess. So
That's cool.
So that's what you have to do, and most people aren't willing to do that. And when I say 2 videos a week, that doesn't mean it has to be a slick music video. It can just be something with your phone, that you edit offline and upload, or go live or whatever. So there you go.
That's cool. Yeah. And we got a couple of comments here from Ellen. Post 1 to 2 times a week. Where we are specifically talking about YouTube right now, Ellen. We are focused on just how he has grown his channel and just some of the benefits of using YouTube and the fact that it is a search engine and you can actually predict what people are going to be typically searching for because they're going to tell you. And let me see here. How did you come up with the idea for a YouTube channel? And yeah, we did discuss this early on in the session, but basically, Bob, he was basically looking for affirmation type content that he didn't see or didn't find on YouTube and decided to make it himself. And it's been the first he's been what you said about 14 years on YouTube. The first 10 years was about 4,000 subscribers, and then over the last 4 years you've grown that from 4,000 to, let's just say, 154,000. So it's been pretty good.
And Ellen, if you look at my music marketing podcast, anywhere the podcasts are available, I did a 2-part series where I kind of go into all the details, or well, a lot of them. So that could end up yeah.
And yeah, I think I want to stick with YouTube real quick, Bob. I know there's like 10 other avenues that we could cover.
Yeah.
But I want to stick with YouTube just for a second, just so it's a very targeted content related. We are talking about YouTube, but just so you guys know, I'll probably have Bob on again because he also does an awesome improv comedy show via Zoom. Which has, he was doing those live, but I think just from my observation, it's taken off and still continue to do really well. And then obviously he's done a ton of live streaming, even though that's not necessarily the crux of what he's been doing, for YouTube. So there's a few different ways that we could go, but I do want to actually see, Bob, if we can stick on this YouTube focus for a minute. I know that you had mentioned that there are some specific things that you can do to help your YouTube videos see more eyeballs. And just for artists and musicians that are looking, again, we're teaching a course. We're doing a course in the Artist Collective right now. It's called Livestreaming Strategies That Will Ignite Your Fans. And it's about different creative ideas, different creative ways that you can, use live streaming just as one type of content. But right now it is, at least on Facebook and Instagram and other social media types, it's the form of content that is getting the most reach, getting the most eyeballs and things like that. So incorporate it into your strategy in some way, shape, or form. But after you do your live streams, if let's just say they're on Facebook and you want to quote unquote repurpose them, you want to get them on YouTube, how do you take that live stream? How do you take those songs, maybe the cool moments, and make videos to put on YouTube? what's the best way to, and this is my question for Bob, what's the best way to like take a repurposed live stream video from a Facebook show, for example, and then upload it to YouTube to get the most eyeballs? I know there's like four or five specific things that you want to look at to really maximize those videos.
And I don't know if you covered this in your separate things on live streaming. Yeah, so it is possible to after your live stream to download that file. You can either edit it or upload it as is to other platforms. The quality is still going to be a little grainy compared to if you shot something on your phone or shot something offline. But that is possible. It's one way to repurpose it. But if you're just talking in general, again, whether you do affirmations or whatever, you get singing lessons. You teach people how to do karate or whatever. These 4 or 5 tips we're going to give you here, I think is what you're talking about, will be really helpful. So in many ways, like Google and YouTube, they don't reveal how the details of the algorithm and how it works in some way, but in other ways, they actually will tell you. I mentioned earlier that they give creators a lot of resources, and they have a whole channels and things and videos that come out weekly with tips for creators. Sorry about that. Bang my microphone. And so they will actually at times tell you what the most important thing is. And so here's the 2 most important factors, and I'll give you 2 or 3 others that will increase the odds. Nothing's guaranteed, especially if you're a new channel. You can follow all these things and still, I got 24 views. So, but these are the things, if you do consistently over time, will benefit your channel. So one is the title. Coming back to this search engine thing, make sure, one thing that I recommend, a lot of people just shoot a video and then later they'll go, oh, what kind of title should I slap on this thing before I upload it? And I recommend doing it the other way, doing some keyword research and trying to discover titles, topics, phrases related to what you do. Again, you're totally being authentic. You're not finding something unrelated to you and trying to do a video on it. It's something related to your genre, something related to the skill set that you have, songwriting, maybe an interesting experience that you had, or a hobby, or a cause, or whatever that you're passionate about. So find a phrase that's already proved itself to be popular or that people are searching for. So make that so make sure those words are in the title. And even if you're putting up an original song, make sure that you add the genre or an instrument or something that's unique about that song. Add that to the title that you put into YouTube. So that's really important, because that's the thing that's going to draw people to it. So, like for instance, if I have a specific brand of why I'm focused on appliances, with a specific brand of a washing machine, and I figured out how to fix it, and I made a video about it, I'm not gonna. If I put a title like "How I Fixed It," it's so generic. I'm gonna put how I fixed my Maytag, put the model, and then the specifics about that thing, because there'll be people with that make and that model who are looking to how to fix that thing, and so you want to put that in the title prominently. The second thing is the thumbnail. And so basically the thumbnail is like the book cover of your video. It's the visual representation of the video that people see before they click on it to watch it. And so this comes up in search results. It comes up on your homepage for recommended videos. The thumbnail and the title is what shows when you're watching a video and it's showing you other related videos or recommended videos. So the thumbnail is the visual representation, and you want that to be kind of eye-catching. If anyone's ever uploaded a YouTube video, you may know that it randomly, inside your dashboard, it will randomly choose 3 different portions of the video and grab a screenshot, and you can choose one of those to be your thumbnail. It's making it easy for people, but I would recommend that you not do that. Instead, create a custom thumbnail. So you can create an image offline based on the specific dimensions of that thumbnail, which is a widescreen, and then upload your custom thumbnail, which is what I do with all of my videos. Not every I like to use text, and so if if it's morning gratitude affirmations, that's the prominent text along with something else that's eye-catching in there. I would, and you can use whatever your photo editing software is. I like to use Canva. Oh, there we go. We're showing it's the playlist. Go ahead and hit the videos tab if you don't mind.
Sure.
Leonard. Yeah, you can divide things into playlists too. So I have things just related to abundance and things related to gratitude or health or whatever. Once that loads, so those are my thumbnails. So you can see I use a lot of that yellow sunrise with the silhouette of the gal.
Nice.
But I've been experimenting with other thumbnails too. But you notice the prominence, positioning of the text that tells you what the topic is.
Yeah.
So, so what YouTube measures, and they will tell you this, is when you go into your dashboard, it shows for every video, it shows you how many impressions that video has. So basically, it's how many times was that thumbnail displayed to people in those ways that I just mentioned. Of that, let's say it's 1,000 times, what percentage of them clicked on it to watch it? And I have a click-through rate, as they call it, of around 7%. So it's not like a huge amount that you have to have for them to think that it's successful in catching attention. Then once somebody clicks on it, then they measure how much of that video do they watch. So if people are bailing on your videos in the first 30 minutes or early on, that's a signal telling YouTube that people are not finding value in it because they're bailing on it. But if they watch, 50, 60, I think, some of my decent videos have like 60% or so watch the video.
Yeah.
Then that's indicating, people are finding value in it, so we're going to keep offering this as a suggestion. So there's a whole lot of different layers of things that they use to indicate a video has value. But that thumbnail is really important. So the thumbnail and the title are the two most important things. And I'm always playing with stuff, and but you notice text is pretty prominent there, right?
Yeah, and I've seen lots of different variations of, hey, this works, and you should only have 4 words of text and this kind of stuff. But it's, again, this is encouragement to everyone listening that find what works for you. And as you can see, Bob has settled in on, a pretty consistent format. And the cool thing too, and I also love to just share these kinds of productivity tips. Guess what? Bob does not have to create a thumbnail from scratch every time he uploads a video. I'm pretty sure Bob's got a template that he goes in and he just does his keyword research, and he goes to his template with the girl with their hands out in the morning, which is the end result of what he wants people to feel like. And he changes the text, maybe adds a little splash of color. I can see some green on the top and some red on the bottom, and then vice versa. So he's switching it up just a little bit, but he's changing the text, and he's done.
Got the Christmas. Yeah, I do. I use Canva.com, and I like it so much. I'm doing the paid version, but even the free version has a lot of perks. And I have this template, that I just change the text. I use the Christmas colors a lot, red and green. Obviously.
That's awesome. Hey, apparently, it's working. And who knows if you would have used, purple and orange? Who knows if you would have even. Who knows if we would even been talking to you right now, Bob? I'm just kidding.
Right, yeah.
So,
yeah.
Cool. So those two tips right now, the most important ones, guys. So tip number 1 is optimizing the title of your video and using the predictive text, the auto suggest of video of YouTube to let you know what to title your video, or ideas of ways to title your video. So find a phrase that people are already searching for, because that's basically YouTube telling you, hey, of the topic that you want to talk about, or the style of music that you want to perform, or the type of video, hey, people are looking for it, and this is what they're searching for. So if you get your name in that hat, they'll probably find you too in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But then also creating a custom thumbnail. And I also wanted to ask you real quick. There's a couple other points that aspects of the video that I want you to talk about, but I noticed that in some of your other videos, and I want to bring this up. Let's do a playlist here. Let me see. Basically, some of the other videos that you would do early on, they had your face in the video.
Yes.
And I've heard and seen different things that said, hey, you want to have your face in your thumbnail to show your personality, etc., etc. Obviously, there's many different ways to go about, conquering these different things. But was it a conscious decision, or did you used to have your face on there and changed, or did you find?
So that's a good point. So I've been doing stuff with cameras. I mean, since I was looking into I've been on camera a lot over the years, and so I'm comfortable actually looking into a camera and speaking to it like it's a person. And a lot of my early videos on music marketing and different things was me on camera. What I chose to do, because I pre-recorded the audio, I had the background music. I didn't want people looking at me, so it was basically. And again, I polled my audience. And in the same way that when I was seeking out these things myself, I would rarely watch the video. I would just listen. Something I would find and listen to. And so me being on camera didn't fit this particular format. And so I didn't feel it was necessary to put my mug on most of these. You see, I do on some of them there. Yeah.
Sure.
But more the inspirational ones when I'm on camera in particular. And so since I wasn't in the video, I felt it wasn't necessarily put my face.
That makes sense.
Part when you're if you're a solo artist or a thought leader or establishing yourself as an expert, that is a good thing. Yeah, and actually a lot of successful YouTubers will put their face in it, like those there. And so yeah, again, you have to tailor it to your specific topic and what you're doing. So yeah, that's a common one with the person's face is on one side. When you design the thumbnail, keep in mind you notice the timestamp is down on the lower right hand corner. So you want to keep that, like the self-published books, The Ugly Truth. That was an early thumbnail that I had someone create for me where I wasn't thinking about the timestamp, and so the word truth is covered up. Otherwise, you want to leave that open when you create your thumbnail. So you're not covering up any text or important parts of the thumbnail.
Gotcha. So yeah, the little YouTube videos, the timestamp there. Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
Cool. So yeah, so that's that. And then real quickly, I'm going to just mention just two more aspects of the video. So the description is the next one. That's basically what appears under the video. You generally only see the first sentence or so of the description, and you have to click read more to be able to expand that. You can put up to like 5,000 characters. You could pretty long description. So you can go ahead and fill that up with words that describe, especially that first opening paragraph. It seems as important of describing what's in that video, repeating the words in the title, adding additional words related to that topic, just so it's sending signals to YouTube about what this video is about, and even links to your social media, links to other videos. Like also, YouTube likes it when people who watch your videos will go to another YouTube video. The longer that your videos will keep them on YouTube, the more they like it. And so I've got a lot of calls to actions about getting on my email list, subscribing to the channel. You see there, following my stuff on Spotify, things that were important to me. And then right under that is also I have links to my different playlists that will keep people on YouTube. And then below that I double the keywords and all that. I kind of and you can use hashtags too in your description.
Yes.
So anyway, go ahead and fill that up.
And yeah, I started to do this, and one of the tips that just from a process standpoint that I would like to offer is like make use a notes program or something, and like just have this stuff, like create a master copy of like your links and your playlists and all this stuff, and just have it available in a notes program or a word processing program, wherever you can just easily access it, so that when you go to do your videos, you just are able to copy and paste a bulk of it and then tailor that video, like add other stuff, because it took maybe like 5 videos before I realized there's got to be a better way. So
Yeah. If you if you don't mind just scrolling down a hair, see that
yeah,
see that paragraph that starts off with "I am worthy." All right,
yes,
so that right there is just a long list of keywords and or key phrases related to the topic of this video that I strung together for two reasons. One, there's another thing that I guess the another aspect of this is tags. Tags have lost their relevance. They used to be emphasized a lot. Basically, tags are something that you can't see publicly, but you fill in. There's still a box there, but it's kind of downplayed, and it's again its prominence where you can put in these tags, and that's what I put into the tags of this video. But they're saying they don't carry the weight that they used to. But I go ahead and take that list and put it in the description just because it's hammering home what this is about. So this is obviously a
gotcha.
video about self-worth and self-confidence, and so I have phrases that people might be searching for. I am worthy, I am enough, affirmations, you are perfect, you are worthy, and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
Affirmations for self-esteem. Just many different phrases that related to this
Nice.
thing. I put them in the tag box, but I also put them in the body of the description.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
but they're not as important. And the thing that's probably even more important now that we talked about before we went live was, again, YouTube wants to know what is the topic of this video so that they can serve it to people looking for that thing. So they've had now for some years, what do you call it, voice recognition. So it will automatically create captions based on machine, voice to text.
Yeah.
The automated thing that they have is sometimes not accurate. There's no punctuation, but they are basically monitoring what the text is. And so you want, if you, so that they probably put more weight, I'm guessing these days, on what you say in your video.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's probably
What you tag.
replaced the importance of the tags.
Well, yeah, because you can go in and edit your tags to be whatever, and even after the video's done, but it's like, don't,
Yeah.
basically, what are you saying in your video is what we're going to give more weight to. So, and that's a really good tip, because I too have been like focused on tags and the importance of them, but not necessarily thinking tags when I'm speaking or when I'm actually doing the video. So if you're watching this, one of the most important things that you can think about even before you create your video is thinking about what you're going to say.
Mm-hmm.
And, I guess another way to also do this, Bob, is like, let's say, for example, everyone, you're doing a live stream and you're performing music and you've got original or you're doing covers or what have you. Before you take it to YouTube, and I guess technically there's a YouTube video editor, but before you take it to YouTube, let's say you take it over to iMovie. You could create a custom beginning that talks about, hey, a minute or so of like, hey, here's this video, and you could think about, here's my keyword research, and you could talk a little bit about what you're going to play and things like that. So you could actually take your live stream into iMovie and create maybe a beginning and an end, or a beginning, middle, and end, depending on how long it is, and then make that one video what you take to YouTube.
Yeah.
A few more steps than necessarily thinking about it ahead of time, but again, just in some of the stuff that Bob is talking about, you're not necessarily, if you're performing live, going to necessarily be thinking about all of the things. Now, obviously, you can prep for it, you can make notes, you can, welcome people to your live stream as you're in the middle of it. Like, hey, once again, everybody, we're here with the Music Industry Chat podcast, which I just realized I didn't do. Doggone it. But so yeah, there's different ways that you can use these tips that Bob is saying, but I love the fact that Bob, that you had mentioned just now that, and you showed us this example of, while the tags are there and they're probably, figure into the equation, take what you would have used as your tags, but actually incorporate them into your description. I
Yeah,
like that a lot.
that opening paragraph too. Yeah, and yeah, you could say, like in the case of a musician, whether you can just put a little thought into it and go, hey, thanks. I hope you enjoyed this original Delta blues song featuring a steel guitar or a slide guitar. It's a mention the specifics of that video when you set
Mm-hmm.
it up, and then you can also at the end have a call to action. You can also, I said there's in the podcast I did, there's different ways that you can. Even with a small following, you can use your YouTube videos for different purposes to build your email list. You can encourage them at the end or whatever to get on your email list, encourage them to subscribe, leave comments, so think about make sure you have a couple of key
Mm-hmm.
calls to action in your videos. Um,
Nice.
and that can be the beginning and the end or both of a song.
Nice.
But yeah.
That's great. Man, okay, so tip number one, you guys, is to optimize your title. Basically find a phrase that people are searching for, and not only be able to use that as your title, but also to be able to say that out loud, to use it in your description, those kinds of things. And I really thought it was cool just to, again, in the essence of time, I know it's really tempting to be like, okay, what's the best thumbnail of these three that YouTube gives me? What's the best one of these? Okay, this is kind of cool. But even that, fight the urge.
Yeah.
Fight the urge to use one of those, because, you want to experiment. And, who's to say that, your face on there isn't the best thing to do,
Yeah.
and having one of those things isn't, we're not saying, don't use your face, but maybe use a version of that thumbnail that has the title or something in the actual thumbnail. But thumbnails are a huge part of how people are going to consume your content. So make sure that you experiment, but create some custom thumbnails.
Mhm.
And yeah, stack your description. And how many characters did you say, Bob?
I
Like,
think
it's
5,000.
that's a lot. Okay,
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah.
cool.
So
And
yeah.
and so you've got links to other playlists. Um, and so obviously, as you guys can see, the color, all of these links are clickable. So if people are watching your videos, don't be afraid to, give them leads to the other content. And one thing, the reason I scrolled back up to is, I wanted to highlight the fact that also, if you've got, say, a longer live stream that you are doing, and you're like, hey, here's my set list for this live stream. I believe, Bob, and correct me if I'm wrong, but where you've got your intro, your affirmations, and your final thoughts there, do you just have to enter in those timestamps as like a number to have it do, or is that something different that you need to do?
Yeah, so that's I don't know how long they've had that feature, but I guess they call them chapters or something.
Ah,
And so yeah, if you want to take people like it, people use it in different ways. Let's say you cover 5 different tips or something, or you have 5 different songs or whatever in your live stream or whatever. You can take people right to the song that they want to hear. A
gotcha.
lot of people don't know to expand the description to find that, but I just like to put them in there. But yeah, you just put in the number and it automatically creates that link that'll take you right to that section of that video.
Gotcha. So yeah, so we could click on that number and it would scroll the video to that
Yeah.
second, and cool.
Yeah, I
Okay.
just have to find out. I just had to manually go through and find out where the first affirmation comes, back it up a couple seconds, and then enter that timestamp. And like I said, it does it automatically.
Nice. Yeah, Ellen says, I think Canva has a template for YouTube thumbnails. Yes, they
They
do. They've
they
got
do, and that's what I
a
use.
bunch. Yes.
Yeah.
The Canva is awesome. But yeah, then, stacking your description, again, just being abundant with your your information, but just, because here's the thing: when people find you, when they like you, they're going to stalk you, in the best way possible, I'm sure, but they're going to try and find out more information. So when those people do, because not everybody will, But when they do, have something there for them to consume, have someplace else for them to go. And we talk about this a lot
Yeah.
in the course, is like, if you're going to make the effort to be in front of people, if you're going to make the effort to introduce yourself, just assume that there's going to be a few people. It's not going to be everybody, but a few people are going to want to know more. So give them someplace else to go.
Yeah. And the other thing, I don't want to get into it right now, but there are other, I just wanted to keep it kind of the meat and potatoes here.
Sure.
And even that is overwhelming for a lot of people that aren't familiar with YouTube. But there are also other things that you will learn to use, like end screens, there are cards, that other ways of alerting people to other, those things are mostly designed to keep people on YouTube and to go to your next video or the next thing that you recommend that they listen to based on whatever this video is about. But we won't go down that rabbit hole right now. The fact is, I look at the time and know that I have an improv show later today. I'm thinking if you'll have me back, I have a whole bullet point. I created this checklist from years ago about what to do before, during, and after a live stream, and we could spend a whole nother session just talking about that. And we didn't even really talk about improv much, but
right, and that's the other, and that's we're going to have Bob back, because I definitely that is one of the other facets of the course that we're doing, is we want to give you creative ideas in terms of different ways, different methods, different tools that you can use to live stream, that it doesn't have to be just you in front of your computer singing a song. Obviously, that's one of the more popular ways, and that's, if we want to get our art and our music out there, that's great. But, we definitely want to, give you opportunities, because studies show that people love variety. That doesn't mean that you have to do 15 different things. That just means that even if you go to Twitch and look at the categories, regardless of what your passion is or stuff that you like to do, there's probably somebody out there that's already got a channel doing it. So, but yeah, just be able to take those, be able to take those tips. Bob, thank you so much.
You bet.
Again, everyone, please help me thank Mr. Bob Baker. Now, Bob, where can we find you? Where can people get more info?
Sure. Well, just the YouTube channel is really easy to find if you just want to kind of sample some of the stuff that I'm doing that we've talked about. So it's youtube.com/Bob Baker, just my name right after the .com and the slash. Since a lot of musicians will watch this, all of my music marketing stuff is at thebuzzfactor.com, thebuzzfactor.com. And then my website that's dedicated to this inspirational spoken word is actually bobbakerinspiration.com.
Nice.
So I guess there's a number of different things there for you to check out. But yeah, just to see what I'm up to, and maybe you'll start listening to it, and it'll make your mornings a little bit more. Longtime fan of both Bob and Leonard. Yeah, we love hearing that, Ellen. Yeah.
Thanks, Ellen. Great to have you. And hey, Meg, how are you doing?
Hi, Meg.
Yeah. So yes, Bob, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure to speak with you about this YouTube growth, and just congratulations on your success, and just being able to reach people with these positive affirmations. And I realized I started doing positive affirmations on Instagram, and I'm like, man, this would be great YouTube content, duh. But but no, seriously, thank you for the tips. And everyone, we will have this video content available on our Artist Collective page for the week. But then if you are a member of the Artist Collective, we will have this as a part of your membership, and we're probably going to have Bob back, so we will get that set up and let you know about that as well. So
yay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Leonard. Appreciate it.
All right, man. I appreciate it. You have a great one.
All right, you too. All right. Bye.
Bye. All right, you guys. That is it for today. Obviously, Bob gave us a lot of tips. We will get these summarized, and we will get these into the membership, and we would love to get your comments. And again, just let us know what questions you have. I would love to get those to Bob and just provide answers even if they're not live, or we can have him on again and actually get him to come on again and talk a little bit more about some of the other creative things. So this is Leonard with the Artist Collective. I appreciate you hanging out. If you are a member of the Artist Collective, make sure you tune in tomorrow, and we were going to go over Module 3 of our live stream strategies for musicians, and we will see you then. All right, everybody, have a good one.